Hi, my name is Anna Maria Luisa. Today we're going to be breaking down my video Introverts Get Lonely Too, cut by cut. You can see here is the opening shot of this scene is kind of me in my bedroom all lonely because, you know, I have no one around me. And I initially filmed this because I thought it was a beautiful shot, just like the window, you know, you can see there's no one there. And then I decided, because it was kind of boring, to also add some archival footage that you can just find online. And it's like 1950s people walking on the street, or for example, this one is people in a club. So I just put a little mask there, a shape mask, and that kind of cuts out the image to make sure that I'm still in view, but the walls next to me are kind of like a projection of this club, you know, this image of me imagining that I'm in this great club, but actually I'm all alone. So the original footage is just like without anything. See, it just adds like a little element of like, oh, interesting, like what's going on here, you know? Like it's more like an imagination, because I've always wanted to do a dancing scene, but I can't do it in the club because I don't have anyone. So I thought this is the closest I can get for now. So this footage is like Kino library. So they have bunch of archival footage, just like the most random stuff of ages ago, people walking on the street or in Brazil or Amsterdam, like they have everything. And a lot of people use it in documentaries and in films. And I used it here because I thought it was cool to like have a sort of club scene of back in the day. What I decided to do here is you can hear a little bit of a bangle. I'm actually not wearing it anymore because it stained my wrist because of all the metal and I thought I was going to get some disease from it. But basically here, I first just had me dancing, and it's quite interesting to maybe talk about the sound, what is going on here, because at the start of the video, what you hear is actual sound coming from my speaker. So that's just me actually in the room, just sound from my VHS, no microphone, nothing. And to make it more sort of 3D, I decided to use the actual song, download it, and kind of merge that in, so let it fade in with the recording of my camera. But because it sounds kind of like I'm not really there, if it's just that, I decided to later on add in some sound effects of me basically like doing this in my room without anything. It looks kind of weird, but so that's what you hear here. The bangles are like recorded afterwards. So here it is without the music and just the sound effects. Here it is with the music. When the sun came through my window, when it opened up my mind. The whole thing is that I didn't want the viewer to sort of see that I knew that the camera was there, because I'm doing a freaky dance, you know, I'm by myself. I think we all sometimes do that. And especially because like the whole topic of the videos is that like there's no one living with me. It kind of starts off being like, oh, I feel so great. I can hear dance by myself. No one is here to sort of be like turning music down. And then at the end, I sort of like sit down, look at my watch, and I'm like, oh, damn, like that was fun. But now, what do I do now with my life, you know, without anyone there? I always wanted to do a dancing scene, but all my intros are like a spur of the moment, you know, where I'm doing an actual task in daily life. Like the intro of this video was initially going to be me embroidering on a thing with like episode 25. And I also filmed that, but I was like, oh, it's kind of boring. I kind of want to do a dance. So though, usually I just film a bunch of kind of stuff that I think is kind of cool. And then whilst I'm filming it, I'm like, okay, that's the intro. Because I always like the intro to be like super like different than all the other ones and like fun, you know. I think I thought like 5 minutes before I filmed this, like, oh, I kind of could do like a dancing thing, you know? So it's not really planned, which I think maybe is also the fun part, because you can see that I'm just like kind of winging it. How I plan my stories, plan my films is almost 0%, I would say. Sometimes I write down like a random line in my notebook where I'm like, oh, it could be something about this. But for example, I had filmed this entire video, and then when the edit was done, I was like, introverts, that makes sense. Because I wanted to do dancing scene, but you can also like, give it different meanings as you're making it. Like this could have also just been a fun dancing scene without a deeper meaning. But throughout the entire week, I'd felt really lonely and introverted and like me. So I thought it fitted well, but usually I don't think, I don't have a clear plan ahead of making the film, because the films are about how I feel that week, so that can come later when I'm like, have sat down a bit and be like, how did I feel this week? Or what was awesome this week or less nice? So this is just filmed the actual sound from this camera. What I did was I just played the music inside my bedroom, opened my window, stuck my camera outside, and then to get the full experience of like people on the road and also the music in the background. For as long as I can remember, I've always seen myself as a clear-cut introvert. I mean, I fit the Merriam-Webster definition so perfectly. So the footage that you see here is all filmed on my VHS camera, which I use to film all the footage that you see in my videos. It's all filmed in real time, so none of it is like gotten from the internet. I've tried filming with like an actual Sony digital camera, which is so much easier. Don't get me wrong, there's stabilization, the sound is nice, like she's just very reliable. But I think there's just something so immensely beautiful about filming with camcorders and with VHS cameras that you don't get even with any filter in the world from the actual experience. Like even me putting in the tape just adds such an element of like, okay, and I'm in my little world now and I'm gonna go out and film all the beautiful stuff that I see. It's just like, it adds so much to the experience for me as well. And I really, really love it. And I think it has such a purpose within the story, because obviously I'm trying to make people feel nostalgic, make them feel like they're in this little world where maybe social media and the internet isn't so prevalent, even though I use the internet, of course. But that's also with the clothes, the people that I film, the buildings that I decide to film. It all fits into this sort of cinematic universe that I would love to like create. And the video and the cameras are a huge aspect of that. To transfer the footage is a nightmare sometimes. I have to use this cable here. This I plug in. This was so terribly hard to acquire as well. It's very expensive because they don't make them anymore. Yeah, oh, I have to buy these separately. Like this is a Thunderbolt something. I had to go to someone's house in Holland in the middle of nowhere to get this. And I was really nervous, but I was like, I have to do it for the camera, And this one is also, I don't even know what all of this stuff is. But you plug this into your laptop and then this into the camera, into this port here. And then you let it play in real time. So my tapes are 60 minutes each. So I let the tape play for 60 minutes. Just I brush my teeth or something, or I go cook some food. And then the tape plays through iMovie. And then as soon as the whole hour is finished, it's as a digital file and I import it into Final Cut Pro. So for my videos, I usually limit myself to about 2 tapes, I would say 1.5. If I'm really having the best time of my life, maybe 2.5 or something like, but that's really the max, because basically my whole file is imported into one big video. So 60 minutes, just one plain, like one big file. And like cutting through that, searching through that, if it's too much material, you just get completely overwhelmed. And even the video would be way too long. The story would be like too long. It would be not so nice to watch. So I try to limit myself, because otherwise I get sad about the fact that I can't put all the stuff in, because usually I quite like the stuff that I film. Also, part of the reason why I give myself constraints with the amount of stuff that I film is because these videos are such a small such a small part of my life, like I don't want to ponder about my introvert and how lonely I am for weeks and weeks on end. So I like to keep it short. It's just maybe even a day in my life that I felt like that, or an hour or a minute, It's just, otherwise it gets too complex and the feelings overlap too much. Like every episode is a different experience of me living on this earth, but that doesn't mean that I want everything to completely become so weighted, and working on it for weeks and weeks on end is just not, it's not really doable, because it gets very, I think it just gets too much. Bench for inspiration, ready to define the introvert, saw me walking past.
look me dead in the eye.
So what you see here is a TV log. I don't want to claim too much, but I have never seen it anywhere else so far. I think I made the I think I made the term maybe, but a TV log. I called my series that a while back because I was like, it's not really vlogs, but it's also not just TV. So TV log, you know, because every episode is like you're following this person. Every episode is kind of different. It's a different story, different intro, but they're all kind of, if you follow them, you feel like it's, you know, like a life that's kind of playing out. So that's why I use episode numbers and TV log, because I'm still also vlogging partly. I also talk to the camera. So it's a mix between old school TV series that we all used to watch when we were younger and actual vlogs just of the internet. So I'm just going to go back from the beginning to talk you through some of the shots that I chose to put in.
I was a clear-cut introvert. I mean, I fit the Merriam-Webster.
So these people here, I thought they looked so cool. I just loved how they were standing like in front of the tube. This is a little still moment.
Dead in the eye and instantly thought to himself, that is an introvert. The meeting that followed after our...
So what I really like to do just about these few shots is to have like, because we're on the street, you know, like London, lots of buses going around. So the bus is a really nice transition to the next shot, you know, instead of just making it static. For example, here I'm overlaying it. So this is still the same shot. This is still the same shot. And then, whoops, the new guy comes in, even though it kind of feels like it's the same shot, you know. So I always mix in like static things that nothing happens a lot with people moving and doing things. I always try to like find interesting people on the street or find interesting buildings or nice colors, you know, that might work nicely together.
Non-verbal encounter would be one I would use to dismiss all my social awkwardnesses and justify to myself that it was totally okay to spend days after days alone. Only using my vocal cords dripped in overnight mucus to ask the cashier at my local supermarket if they have more rucola in the bag.
This guy in this car here, I thought he was really cool. And I always do this thing where I like film the ground first and then the main object and then either the sky or the ground again or like something, my hand or something to make it dark. Because this allows me to transition the various films from the street into like a more like flowy sort of segment, you know, rather than just like, oops, oops, oops. It gets really like hard to watch. And now it just makes it like kind of like more easy on the eyes. All the things that I decide to film are only things that could potentially have been in the past. Like, of course, sometimes a phone sneaks in, for example, here, Apple headphones, or like a Lime bike or something. But most of the stuff that I film with the purpose of like, oh, this could have been, you know, a while back, even though I wasn't even alive. But from what I've seen on like the vintage camera stuff, this could have all been like in the past, you know, so that adds to the whole element of this film and the world that I'm trying to build. So I never tried to film modern stuff, or like I would never zoom into a modern building, or like, I don't even, you know, like it's all with a clear intent of like, for example, this car is like very old school, very nice, with a clear purpose of building this environment and not breaking the bubble. I used to collect like weird little pamphlets from like 1940s, and I used to wear like grandma clothes, which I still kind of do, but I love it so much. I don't know particularly why, but it gives me such a feeling of like safeness and tranquility, and I think it's beautiful, you know, and I kind of want to capture that, even though our world is moving so fast. I think there is a beauty in like trying to capture stuff that still looks like it could have been here ages ago.
It's in overnight mucus to ask the cashier at my local supermarket if they have more rucola in the bag.
So the voiceover that you hear under this little segment here is written on a night when I had the whole edit done. That's usually how it goes. I finished the entire edit and then I'm like, okay, I've got one evening to just write anything that I feel or want or that I think fits the film that I've edited. So here, there's not really a rhyme or reason to it. I usually put on some classical music and just start writing. Sometimes it goes terribly bad and I'm like, oh, this sucks, but I use it anyway. Sometimes it goes really well and then it's done in like 2 hours, something like that. I think because the movie for me is like, that kind of speaks for itself. So I'm more watching the film when I've edited it and then sort of talking about how these images fit into that feeling that I had. So I could also do it without voiceover, but I really like to write, and I think it adds an element of like, you know, nice words and sort of it adds an extra element to it. And I think that if I would be writing beforehand, it wouldn't fit with the images as well. So for example, here I knew I edit like in a way that I know, okay, I've got here like a little segment with no one singing, no lyrics, that I can talk, so I know that I can talk here. And then after that, I chose a song with lyrics because I know I won't talk in that. I think my voiceovers are inspired by the books that I read. I really like to read books that are super descriptive. That's 100% my main influence, just like reading as much as I can and finding little inspirations from that. I never try to write anything down because I don't want to copy the author, but when you read, then you can have it in your subconscious how different writers write. So I think that's why it's so interesting about writing, is that you can get so much better at it as more as you read, because you absorb all of this new way that different people write. Hey, this is my final night in my current flat. Today we basically took everything out. I have so many pimples on my face from the stress. And then tomorrow I have this man with a van to take everything with me, with my help of course, and move everything to a new flat. So this is really just the end. I usually kind of vlog when something a little bit more of a thing I can talk about is happening. So I used to, when I first started, I used to just be like, hey, good morning, today I'm going to do this. But I think I'm just going to leave that to the image, because you can film that. You don't have to talk about it. So that's where kind of the boring part of the vlog lies. Whereas here I'm like, oh, I'm going to move out. That's a nice thing to share. And I think the combination between voiceover and me also speaking directly to the camera adds such a nice element of oh, we're here together. And I'm also speaking to the camera, and it feels more like I'm interacting with the viewer, one-on-one. And then also talking about my feelings in retrospect via the voiceover. So this is more like my life right now. And then the voiceover adds a different sort of dimension to the whole experience. So clean. It doesn't look clean because I didn't flush it. Whoops.
Born in darkness, but I fought my way up to the sun. Had a lot of battles.
So the music here is a song with lyrics, because of course I had a song with just no lyrics, so I could talk over it. And here I kind of stopped talking. I was like, I always like to have a song where it starts without any lyrics, and then as soon as the lyrics start, then my other experience ends. So here I end talking, stop talking, and then the singer starts singing. So it's a nice transition between the song coming in. That's what DJs, I think, on the radio do as well. So that works really well. And little bit of an upbeat song. I have this playlist with about, I think, 1,000 plus songs that I all think could be great in a film potentially one day. So that's how I kind of choose what to put in. It's honestly a very random process. Once again, I just go through the playlist. Sometimes I go on other playlists. I just do a lot of digging initially. And then I find kind of the mood for the video. I add them all to the playlist, and then later on I go back and I'm like, oh yeah, these, and these could all work. The music is actually super, super important because this edit wasn't there before the song. So I first choose the song and then I start editing to the song. So the music is the initial part of even how I start a video, if I have a bunch of material, I wouldn't just start editing it. I would first get the song, the intro song, because that one is the most important, and then sort of start adding to that. Unless, for example, this dancing scene, of course, I had it in my mind already, but usually that's not the case. This song that you see here was just the first one I put it on, and I was like, oh, perfect, that one fits so well.
Born in darkness, but I fought my way up to the sun.
Usually there's a feeling, when you go through the place, you're I go skip really fast, and then I'm like, oh, that one is it, it's hard to explain, but as soon as you find it, you do get this feeling of that would fit perfectly. And sometimes there's maybe one or two switches, or for example, when I'm writing, I sometimes listen to really sad classical music. So then the piece that I write is super depressing, and then I record it, and then I hear it with the actual song that I put on before I started writing it. I'm like, that's way too happy, for the lyrics that I wrote. So then I have to go back and switch the music for a little bit more sad or slow or something like that. But usually it's one or two songs that, make it.
Had a lot of battles, some I lost and some I tell you, girl.
The shot that you see here is actually a green screen. It's basically a box, and I put this green, I have this set of papers that I bought in like a craft store, green papers that I use everywhere. They're great. This is all filmed later on because I was like, oh, that's a boring transition. I need to add something to it. And green screens always do the job. Like whenever something's boring, think green screen, because that will give you so much more exciting stuff to look at. So this is just basically a box. I close it and then I throw it away. And that's it. This is in Final Cut Pro. It's just a green screen keyer effect. And sometimes it doesn't work that well. Here you can see there's a lot of like black stuff on the edges. I didn't like that. So I just faded in the actual image when it started sort of closing in on the box. So it's just a green screen keyer effect with a fade in. I learned it from just doing it. I used to edit on iMovie when I was younger. Until last year, actually, I did iMovie. And iMovie is great if you want to do simple things, but it can't really do much more than that. So because I was already, wanting to make kind of exciting films, I learned I learned with iMovie to work around a lot of the limitations that the program had. So weird ways to do things that probably can be done much easier with a more advanced program. So as soon as I started using Final Cut Pro, I was still using those ways. And then in 2 weeks later, I realized that there was an actual button for it that would do it immediately. But this is just all by doing it, just doing it as much as you can, basically. So I started making YouTube videos, I think, like honestly, a year ago from now. Maybe like in a few weeks, it's a year that I did my first vlog. Right now, I also study neuroscience at university. So making YouTube videos is really just honestly a creative thing that I do that I really, really love, but it's not my main thing in life because I have to get my degree. And I think for the future, I don't know if I would honestly love to do this for the rest of my life because I love it so much. But I think also the beauty in it is that I have this other life that is still going on, that a lot of other people are living, going to university and like doing all of this stuff. When I had my exams last year, I tried to like not do it for like 3 weeks, and I was like, oh my God, what the hell? I can't think, because for me, it's such a way of like kind of, it's almost a form, it sounds kind of weird, but it's almost like a form of self-love. I like this making these videos is really like, I really love myself by giving myself the opportunity to sort of do this. And it's the same thing as you really like exercise, then exercising is like makes you feel great, and this makes me feel great. And it also, if I feel great in general and happy in my general life, then I'll be a better friend and I'll perform better at university. So it almost feels like I have to sort of do it, because it adds so much beauty to my life, which I think is really important.
Well, let me tell you, girl, you ain't seen nothing yet. There's nothing in this world.
The images that you see here are all layered over, and Final Cut Pro has this great thing. That's why I love it so much, this program, is that you can add different blend modes. So every blend mode kind of gives a different effect. So for example, hard light would make this kind of different, or if I would put a exclusion, this one is a bad example, but you get the gist. So light in here, it just kind of removes the background of the actual image and just leaves the lights on. So then you can still see the other video that is playing behind it. And this is all to do with glass, and like it kind of fits well together with all these different layers. So I really like to experiment a lot with the different layers. I think like putting up the saturation super high on one layer, and then the other one you keep it normal. For example, saturation is very high on this middle film here, to just make it like stand out. And usually these sort of segments are very much just sort of playing with the program, like sort of seeing what looks best. And I kind of know now more what different layers do, but it's definitely like a really good way to make your films a bit more exciting by kind of playing around with the different blend modes and saturations. Throughout my whole creative process, I work with quite a few constraints. For example, I don't shoot too much. I don't have too much material. I give myself only a few days to really make it. And I think that's almost why I can make them and keep making them as well, because I don't let myself sit with a video for too long, even though sometimes I type up the story in one night, and then the next morning I wake up, I'm like, oh, I really actually don't like that. And then I can allow myself to change a few things, but I can't sit on it for ages, because that's also not how you really learn. Because I think the way I was able to progress in my video making quite a bit and try different styles is by just producing them and being like, okay, I tried that one and I like that one, but next time I'm going to do something else, or that didn't feel too correct, because I had these 2 videos that I really liked, my 2 recent videos. And before that, I had posted this video that I absolutely hated. I was like, oh, this sucks. And I don't like the writing. It doesn't make any sense. It's just kind of a random get together of like random footage. But I was like, right, I made that. I'm just going to put it out because it's still kind of nice. And now I'm going to go on to the next one, because just like that, my life also keeps moving. You know, I can't stop time and hope that it will just stay there. So the video has to move with it. I can't sit too long on one project. I have to just keep making it, because at the end of the day, the TV logs are my life. So I don't want to post a video that was filmed like 3 months ago or 4 months ago, you know? I want to keep it moving, keep learning from what I made, keep watching stuff, keep reading stuff to sort of improve it in that way, rather than stressing too much about what is on my laptop at that very moment.